The Stone Zone, with legendary Republican strategist and political icon and pundit Roger Stone. Stone has served as a senior campaign aide to 3 Republican presidents. He is a New York Times best-selling author and a longtime friend and advisor of President Donald Trump. As an outspoken libertarian, Stone has appeared on thousands of broadcasts, spoken at countless venues, and lectured before the prestigious Oxford Political Union and the Cambridge Union Society. Due to his 4+ decades in the political and cultural arena, Stone has become a pop culture icon. And now, here's your host, Roger Stone.
Welcome, I'm Roger Stone, and yes, you are back in the Stone Zone. Our politics is moving at warp speed with new developments every day. Yesterday, what appeared to be some kind of chemical or gas attack on the people standing directly behind President Donald Trump during a rally. A lot of questions about that. We're still looking into it. Joining me now to break down the latest political news and to hone in on the Keystone State of Pennsylvania, which virtually everyone recognizes will be the absolute key to victory here for either presidential candidate, is my co-host, Troy Smith of Slingshot.News.
Roger, it's always an honor to be back in the Stone Zone.
So we are very pleased today to have Cliff Maloney with us. Cliff Maloney is running the Pennsylvania Chase, a good old-fashioned ground game, grassroots, get out the vote, voter registration, identification, and get out the vote operation, and also chasing those crucial mail ballots, which of course the Pennsylvania Supreme Court has upheld the validity of, even though many of us believe they are in fact unconstitutional. Cliff Maloney of the Pennsylvania Chase joins us now in the Stone Zone.
Roger, appreciate you having me as always. Great to be in the Stone Zone with some Patriots.
Cliff, you're doing incredible work, and that's what we want to talk about today. So in 2016, Donald Trump won Pennsylvania by 68,236 votes, which was a difference of 1.2% over Hillary Clinton. In 2020, however, Biden was declared the winner in Pennsylvania by 80,551 votes, which is also a difference of 1.2% of the vote. The Philadelphia Democrat Party machine is known for its ability to manipulate votes. They've changed voter fraud to an art form, but that this time will be quite different, where I do believe we'll have poll watchers and a more aggressive and fully legal operation, make sure that we have an honest count. But you and others who we've had on the show have really focused on Pennsylvania as the absolute key. I agree with that analysis. And Scott Pressler, yourself, other patriots are doing an amazing job of registering votes, but then it's not just registering them, it's getting them out. So tell us what's going on the ground in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, well, as of Monday, ballots are legally able to go out. Now, we did have a court delay that because it is supposed to be 50 days out as the soonest, which would have been Monday. But those court rulings are now proceeding. We expect ballots to go out in all of the 67 counties in the next week. And so what we've got is 120 folks on the ground with the PA Chase. They're full-time ballot chasers, and we're going to knock on 500,000 doors to try to close that gap that you talked about, Roger. And I want to give your fans and your listeners one metric that to me is the most important. So in 2020, yes, we allegedly lost by 80,000 votes in Pennsylvania. But what kills me is when you look at the numbers, there were 141,000 Republicans who requested a mail-in ballot, and they never sent it back, right? Because nobody talked to them. You didn't have Scott Pressler's group on the ground. You didn't have Turning Point. You didn't have our group doing the PA Chase program, right? All that changes in 24. This is the first time I've seen both the RNC under Whatley and Trump and all of these other organizations. We've got synergy, and we're fighting fire with fire. And so right now on the ground, you've got all these people chasing the ballots, doing the work. And I think that's how we solve that problem of the 141,000 people that requested the ballot and never sent it back. Now, some good news for your folks here, Roger. If you look at the mail in ballot requests from today versus 4 years ago, the same time out from the election, Democrats are down 303,000 requests. Republicans are down as well, but they're only down about 50,000. So right now, we've netted an advantage of 250,000 mail in ballot requests compared to where we were at this time 4 years ago. Alarm bells are going off at the DNC when they see these numbers and they see they're hemorrhaging Democrat mail in ballot requests in places like Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and statewide in Pennsylvania. It's very good news for Donald Trump.
There was an Ipsos poll yesterday that showed Kamala Harris leading in Pennsylvania by 5. Speaking to a number of pollsters who have access to their own data, none of them believe that that is correct. The Trump campaign, I believe, also shows the president narrowly ahead in Pennsylvania in their own polling. Also told that pollsters who work for Governor Shapiro dispute that number and that they don't believe that Kamala Harris is ahead in the state. Last night, President Donald Trump was on with Gutfield on Fox, and he made an observation that gun owners specifically do not vote in the numbers that you would expect. Given the many challenges to the Second Amendment, you would think they would be highly motivated voters. Pennsylvania actually has more gun owners per capita than any state in the nation. Tell me about efforts in that area to get those who are Second Amendment supporters, gun owners, legal gun owners, to vote.
Yeah, there's been different coalitions that I'll point to, Roger. One of them being gun owners or hunters in the state of Pennsylvania. Another one being the Amish community, right? And so you have warriors like Scott Presser on the ground, and he's targeted both of these communities, among others, to try to get them to register because it's, 80-20, even 90-10 sometimes that any of them that register are going to vote Republican. And so Scott has been working around the clock with early vote action to register them. And you better believe when we pull our universe, the universe that we are chasing ballots in right now, we are targeting them. So it's not just going to every door of Republicans with the ballot, but it's also trying to figure out what are those coalitions of kind of the Trump voters that just based on a single issue, we can find them. I mean, we're going to have people flooding the Amish communities to make sure that they vote, because if you look at the amount of Amish in PA compared to how much we lost by, any of these communities that are going to be super majority voters for Trump, you have to make sure you're working them. So yes, we're talking to gun owners, we're talking to the Amish, we're talking in some of these bellwether counties where momentum is coming to Trump, like in Bucks County, where we've now overtaken the Dems. We're in Luzerne County. We're in Scott Perry's congressional district because there's a battle there. So it's about picking the different battles. But I think one thing I always say, Roger, is there's going to be organic support, but you've got to be organized. I think Obama taught us this in 2008, right? There can always be organic, but if you're not organized, but you put those two things together, and I think Trump has them right now in a way that Republicans have not seen in a while. You put those together, I think that is a great formula for winning in November.
Very good point. Now, there was recently a court ruling. I remember reading about it. I think I read about it on your X feed that you thought was very beneficial in terms of how some ballots in Pennsylvania will be treated. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the court has ruled now that in order for the mail-in ballot to count, it must be dated. So let's talk about the different problems that we find with mail-in ballots outside of them being constitutional or unconstitutional, which, Roger, you and I are on the same page. So when you get a mail-in ballot, you send it back. You have to sign it, you have to put the date, and you have to put it in a secrecy envelope, okay? And so a lot of times what happens is the counties get these mail-in ballots, and if one of those three things is off, well, then they're going to put it in the provisional pile. And so that's why you have the Secretary of State and the Department of State and the governor in Pennsylvania all saying, hey, listen, we might not know the elections results for a few weeks after the election. And yes, that should scare a lot of us who believe in single day voting and paper ballots and hand counting. But that's why these will be decided in the courts. And my argument to anybody in the MAGA movement, anybody that is running statewide in Pennsylvania, anybody that wants to win even a state legislative race in Pennsylvania, you have to make it too big to rig, because the courts are not going to want to throw out votes because they'll be accused as being racist and disenfranchising voting. But right now, Roger, the courts have ruled it's a short-term victory. They have ruled you must put the proper month, the proper day, and the proper year. If you don't do that, the ballot will not count. It'll be held. They can try to sue to get it to count. But once again, we cannot trust the court's decisions. We cannot trust some of these activist judges. The way we win is we overflow and overpower the system so that we've got enough support that all these provisionals, even if every single one of them counted, we would still win the election. It's unfortunate that's where we are, but that's the state of affairs in American electoral politics today.
Troy Smith, do you have a question for our guest today, Cliff Maloney, who's directing the Pennsylvania chase?
Absolutely, sir. I just want to say I watch your Twitter feed pretty closely, and it's great. I guess we have to call it X now, but it's pretty great. And my question to you is the same question that I posed to Scott Pressler, and that relates to the motor voter system put in place by Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. Now, I was very surprised to hear Scott Pressler say on this show that is actually helping register Republicans across the state. It's backfiring. I want to know if you're seeing the same thing, and what's been your experience with this program?
Yeah, so it's baffled all of us, right? And for those, tuning in, they're unfamiliar with motor voters. So when people are signing up for a state ID or to get their learner's permit or to get a driver's license, it's pretty much automatically registering you to vote or pushing you heavily. You have to opt out, not opt in. It has completely backfired on Democrats. Josh Shapiro is probably kicking himself. He's pretty embarrassed when he talks to the DNC because they thought this was going to be a great, great win for Democrats, but we have outpaced them. More Republicans have registered using this motor voter than Democrats. And look, regardless of any polls that you look at, when you talk about momentum, for the Democrats to put in something that makes them think they're going to get a registration advantage and it swings our way, talk about momentum, right? Talk about people really being excited. Talk about something that's real that shows you how we're doing. And then you look at the registration numbers in PA. Remember, folks, back in 2020, the Dems had a registration advantage of over 700,000. We have shrunk that gap to 300,000 and change. We have cut the registration advantage in half. And so when people are asking me, how do you feel about this? I'm feeling great, right? The PA chase, we've got these 120 ballot chasers on the ground, full time. They're working 6 days a week. And by the way, if anybody wants to sponsor a full day of ballot chasing, costs $175, and every penny goes to the ballot chaser's stipend, their housing, and their gas. You can do that at pachase.com, pachase.com. So I just encourage people, get involved. And I think this is the time to do it, but the numbers give me excitement.
Traditionally, of course, there's always been in Pennsylvania greater intensity in the eastern, which is, although Democratic, the more conservative part of the state, than eastern Pennsylvania. Traditionally, the Democrats would get a huge margin out of the city of Philadelphia, but Republicans would close that gap in the counties outside of Pennsylvania, Bucks, Montgomery, and Chester. In more recent years, those counties have trended left, but now, based on, I think, economic issues, you see them coming back. First of all, you see an increase of Republican registrations in those counties, and in polling that I myself have seen, you see that Kamala Harris is not going to get the kind of margin out of the collar counties that they tell us Joe Biden got. I think this is going to be a key factor. Also, the central part of the state, which is probably the most conservative part of the state, one of the keys to victory in 2016 in virtually every state was that rural voters turned out at numbers never before seen. Do you expect to see that again this year in Pennsylvania, in the central part of the state?
Yeah, I expect rural numbers to be through the roof. I do think that is Trump's path to the White House. I think we're focused on a lot of these very heavy red counties where you had a 75% turnout rate. We need to get that to 85 or 90. I mean, that's the Democrats' whole playbook. Go into Philly and Pittsburgh, and instead of having 70% turnout, make sure it's in the 90s. And you do that, it's very tough to compete. So I think we're focused on those red counties where we have tons of red mail-in ballots sitting there. The other thing I'll share with you, Roger, you're spot on when you have this analysis of the counties. So the good news is since 2020, in 66 out of the 67 counties in Pennsylvania, Republicans have outpaced Democrats on registration. So since that date, doesn't mean we have a majority, right? But since that date, in 66 out of 67, now my home county is the stain there, which is Delaware County, which is the only one where Democrats have led Republicans. But I think when you look at a lot of the numbers here, Democrats are hemorrhaging support in the inner cities like they've never seen before. This is not just them having lower registration. I mean, they are losing Democrats in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh at a rate they've never seen before, right? People unregistering as Democrat, either switching to independent or switching to Republican. You see the Teamsters news coming out that they're refusing to endorse Kamala Harris. That is a huge deal. You know, I've got plenty of family members in the union, Southeastern PA, folks out in Western PA. The Teamsters refusing to endorse, I think it did not get as much coverage as it should have. Trump is the working class candidate. And I think we see that not just in his policies, but in the people supporting him. And the last note I'll make on this, Roger, this is the first time I'd argue since I've been involved in politics, I'm 33 years old, where the more people that turn out, I actually think in a state like Pennsylvania, it helps Trump. It didn't used to be that way. But these working class individuals, they are not connecting with the elitist Democrat Party. And so I think you finally see this flip. And that means that the more people that show up, the more working class, the more that turnout is up, instead of it hurting us, I think it actually helps us. And I think people are so tuned into alternative media, folks like you at the Stone Zone, Joe Rogan, you've got all these groups, Tucker's got his own network. I just think people aren't buying the mainstream narrative. And I think that's very good for people who believe in civil liberties, protecting the Constitution, and rejecting this radical Kamala Harris to save the republic with Donald Trump.
Cliff, we've talked a lot on this show about the significance of the political realignment that's going on in the country with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard. Kennedy's still technically a Democrat, but who ran for president as independent. Tulsi, who's left the Democrat Party behind to become an independent. I'm hopeful she'll ultimately decide to become a Republican. Have you reached out to the Kennedy supporters, the Kennedy structure in Pennsylvania, to enlist those folks? And if so, how's that going? If not, perhaps some of you should do. What is the status of that?
Yeah, I think Kennedy joining Team Trump and really having a unity ticket is one of the most significant things that has happened in Pennsylvania. Yes, we have reached out to them. We have had great relationships. We have a lot of those folks volunteering. Some of them are actually our paid door knockers on the ground. And so it's not just voters, but it's activists. And look, I think him being on the ballot and kind of running as an anti-Biden or anti-Harris candidate was one thing with his message, but him taking his message and unifying with Trump, I mean, I think that is significant. And look, the things that we disagree on, any Republican with Kennedy, you know, a lot of those things are minor. I mean, sure, some people are passionate about them, but on the major issues, this is we the people versus the uniparty. This is we the people versus the deep state. This is we the people versus the corrupt actors in Washington, D.C. And so I just, you know, I look at this whole thing and I say, this is a historical realignment. You are correct, Roger. And this is what I ask a lot of people. When's the last time you can remember the Republican ticket didn't have a neocon on it, didn't have somebody who was drooling for more war across the country? I mean, you want to talk about a libertarian dream. And this is my case, not just the RFK independents and Kennedy type Democrats, but the libertarians, right? This is the first ticket in my lifetime where we don't have a Republican neocon somewhere on the ticket. Mike Pence, John McCain, Mitt Romney. I mean, think about these people. Dick Cheney, right? Donald Trump and J.D. Vance stand for no new wars. They don't want to send our wives, our husbands, our daughters, our brothers overseas to fight in these horrendous, useless, endless wars. If that's not enough to get the libertarian folks and the people that care about actually being pro-peace and anti-war, this is the time to step up. Don't buy the BS. Trump and Vance create an alternative, a truly pro-peace ticket. Trump was the only president in my lifetime not to have any new wars. I think it's time to support him, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I must admit, I don't really understand the calculation of Kamala Harris's campaign. The endorsement of Dick Cheney is not a plus. Dick Cheney is not beloved in America. He is a war criminal. He is a man that I think most Americans now realize drove us to a completely unnecessary war based on two complete lies. No, Iraq had no involvement whatsoever in the attack on America on 9/11. And no, as we have learned, Iraq did not have weapons of mass destruction, had not acquired yellow cake uranium, as Colin Powell was forced to say on the floor of the UN. I don't think they understand where the American electorate stands at this point. The support of the Cheneys and of Adam Kinzinger, of the family of John McCain. This is not a plus. I will take the Kennedys and the Gabbards every day of the week. But war is becoming a central issue here. Kamala Harris would like abortion to be the only issue in this campaign, where even there she completely distorts President Trump's position, his long held position. But I think war is very quickly going to supplant that as the driving issue of this campaign. We're going to put this up, but Cliff, tell folks one more time where they can go to support your important work and how much it costs to sponsor a on-the-ground operative knocking on doors, getting out the vote.
Yeah, so go to PA Chase. That's pachase.com. Like I said, we have 10 Airbnbs right now, full of 120 ballot chasers across Pennsylvania. It costs $175 to fund a full day, and all of that money goes towards their pay, their gas, and their housing. There's no commissions, there's no consulting rates. This is about getting those folks fully funded so I don't have to send anybody home. We've got them on the ground. We're doing the work. 500,000 doors, pachase.com. Roger, appreciate you. Appreciate what you do for this country. And we're going to win this thing in 2024. Take it to the bank.
Cliff, it's great to have you back on the Stone Zone. I'm going to get you one of those Roger Stone did nothing wrong hats to wear. So God bless you for the great work you're doing on the ground. You're welcome here anytime on the Stone Zone. Cliff Maloney, Scott Pressler, these guys are selfless patriots. They are working like dogs. They're working themselves into the ground towards victory. And when we win, it will be due not just to the heroic efforts of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, but also due to the work of Cliff Maloney, Scott Pressler, Charlie Kirk, and so many others who understand this is a grassroots, bottom-up effort to win the Keystone State, which will be the key to victory. Cliff, thanks for joining us today in the Stone Zone.
Take care. Thank you, guys.
Folks, you may remember several months ago when the AT&T cell phone system went down entirely. It was a disaster for me. I couldn't reach anybody. I started to examine what my alternatives were, and that's when I learned about the Iridium 555 phone and the Iridium proprietary satellite phone system. Take a look.
This is Roger Stone. Remember when AT&T's cell phone outage left millions, including me, stranded without a means to communicate with loved ones, business associates, or even for emergency services? You see, cellular networks are particularly vulnerable, big targets for hackers and terrorists, as well as vulnerable to hurricanes and other natural disasters. So if your cell phone goes down, how will you communicate? That's why I got the Iridium 9555 satellite phone and service. I'm using the proprietary Iridium satellite service. Cell networks only cover about 7% of the Earth, while the Iridium system covers 100% of the Earth. You can call or text from any place you can see the sky. These are trusted by U.S. military and government officials everywhere. All calls are encrypted, safe and secure. No eavesdropping, no hacking. It's the reason the U.S. military uses Iridium phones and the U.S. Senate uses satellite phones for their secure phone calls. You too can ensure your privacy by using our Iridium proprietary satellite network. Just go to sat123.com/Roger. No tracking and no one can listen to your calls. No one will ever read your text but the person you're sending them to. And more importantly, big tech cannot steal and then sell your data. You can get the Iridium 9555 phone at no cost if you sign up for a plan with a 24-month agreement. A monthly plan is only $95.95, and you get the phone for free. You can get a plan with us for as little as $85.95. And then there are discounted family share plans with up to 3 free phones. Those are also available. The Iridium 9555 satellite phone will work from anywhere on Earth with no exceptions. Oh, and how do you keep your satellite phone charged in the event of an electrical grid shutdown? You're going to want our solar-powered satellite phone recharger. You can get it all by going to sat123.com/Roger. You need to have secure communications. Get your Iridium 9555 phone now.
All right, Troy, we got a lot of politics to cover. I hope folks will go check out the Iridium phone system. I think you'll be glad you did. But let's move on. It seems to me that the Kamala Harris campaign is a one-issue campaign. That issue is abortion, where they continue to try to distort Donald Trump's position. They continue to say that he will sign a federal ban on abortion. Of course, he has said consistently that he is opposed to a federal ban on abortion. In fact, it was Trump-appointed Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe, sending the decision back to the states. Now, different states regulate abortion in different ways. States like California and New York have a much more liberal abortion laws. States like Alabama and Mississippi, for example, have much more conservative state regulation of abortion. And in many cases, this issue is being put on the ballot for voters to decide. They decided in Ohio, they decided in Kansas, decisions that I was somewhat surprised about, but in some cases, of course, it has to do with the wording of the propositions that are put in front of the people. They seem to bury the access to very, very late-term abortion in their proposals because, well, they know that that is extremely unpopular, even among those who are pro-abortion rights. So, Troy, what's going on here?
So, Roger, I saw the headline this week and I wanted to bring this up because it's very important, and I also went and did a deep dive on kind of the history of the last few years of this abortion debate because, like the Democrats and Hillary Clinton have been saying for years, they want to run a short presidential campaign. If it were up to the Democrats, the presidential campaign would be 2 weeks long. And you would know nothing about their candidate except for the fact, that they're a Democrat and you would know their name. That's what they want. And the reason they want that, Roger, is because they don't really have policies. They don't really have ideas for the country. What they have are ideas to empower themselves. And as they implement these ideas and become more powerful, it's actually crucial to the furtherment of their power that they continue to cut off the past and that we don't remember what they were talking about just a few short years ago. I saw a headline this week that said that Senate Republicans are blocking a bill that would reportedly give people in this country the right to have IVF treatment. And you see the headline there from NPR, Senate Republicans block IVF bill as Democrats elevate issue ahead of November election. If you're a casual reader, or as you say, Roger, a non-sophisticate, you look at that and you say, okay, well, it's very clear the Democrats want to protect IVF. Well, in that article, they provide a summary to this bill to protect IVF that was put on the floor by Senator Tammy Duckworth, a Democrat. So I pulled a couple portions of this bill summary that they put in this article. And as we can see, the very first thing that the bill actually says, the summary that they've put out to all the members of Congress, when Donald Trump and Senate Republicans ripped away reproductive health freedom. So that is what they put together, Roger. That's not, some kind of like, a white paper, something like that. They put that out to all the representatives. So they're saying, oh, it's about IVF, but the first thing in their bill is an attack on Donald Trump. And then I went further and I looked at the summary of what the bill actually allows. And we see in this bill that was blocked by Republicans that it would actually allow the U.S. Department of Justice additional leverage and additional rights to attack anybody that they view as threatening the rights of the reproductive rights of people. So that could be strung out to say, okay, if you're protesting outside of an abortion clinic, you're obviously threatening people's lives, and the Department of Justice will come after you. That's in this bill. And also in this bill, Roger, the Democrats, they want to tell you, oh, we want free IVF. Now, we saw President Trump just a few weeks ago. He said that he wanted to give Americans free IVF treatment, and he wanted the government to pay for that. Now, I think this freaked the Democrats out really because they've been making, as you said, this election all about the right to IVF. And as we see, can we put that summary back up real quickly? We see in the second highlighted bullet point that this bill proposed by the Democrats, blocked by Republicans, would actually force mom and pop business owners around the country to pay for the fertility treatments of their employers. That's right. This bill, if you see that second line, actually states that it'll be employers that will actually be forced to pay for this fertility treatment. So a tremendous, and this is not a cheap process, ladies and gentlemen. This is like if you have 15 employees and this bill passes and 5 of them decide they want IVF, you're going out of business because you can't pay for that. And thirdly, that third highlight is a complete ripoff of Donald Trump, where they want to protect the rights. We want to make sure more people have access to IVF. Now, this bill also attacks, Roger, Republicans in the state of Alabama, who, as I pulled from the headlines there, actually have voted to protect IVF in the state of Alabama. The law has been signed. There's nobody in the state of Alabama whose IVF rights are threatened in the slightest bit. They've actually been codified by the Republicans that are in power there, but yet the Democrats put forth this bill and call the Republicans evil for not voting on it, even though it gives sweeping powers to the DOJ, to all these people to attack everybody as it pertains to abortion and IVF. So let's unpack this a little bit more, because we have a clip of Kamala Harris talking about third-term abortion during the debate. This was brought up by Kamala Harris, because remember, folks, the Democrats want to run this election entirely on IVF and abortion. Let's roll the clip of Kamala Harris talking about post-birth abortion, late-term abortion, and then we will reveal the history of many, many years of the Democrats defending this and putting bills forth to make sure that it's legalized in 9 states in this country. Let's roll that clip from the debate of Harris lying to the American people about the Democrats' radical position on abortion.
They have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
Nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. One does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban.
Well, there she
Okay,
Well, and
there's so many lies there, it's hard to pick them apart. First of all, Kamala's sorority sister saying there's no state in the country that allows late-term abortions. At least 8 states, it may be 9, put no time limit whatsoever on late abortion, meaning that abortion could be performed after birth. Yes, there is a video. I think the president misspoke. It is the president of Virginia, who happens to be an obstetrician, talking about the grisly prospect of post-birth abortion, also known as infanticide. In fact, Axios, and they are the source here, says that there are at least 10,000 abortions in the 8th or 9th month of pregnancy. Although you just heard the moderator in the debate say that there are no late-term abortions of this type. Then they throw in birth control, by the way. That's the other part of the trifecta. So they say Trump will sign a federal ban on abortion. No, he won't. He's made that very clear. He has always said from the moment he entered politics that this was a states' rights issue and the states should decide. That's why he supported the overturn of Roe. By the way, there is no constitutional right to an abortion. Roe was wrongly decided. It's a great movie called Roe v. Wade, produced by my good friend Nick Loeb. Take it in this weekend. I actually have a cameo. I play a Washington Post reporter in a very short part in the movie. I really think I nail it. I act duplicitous, sleazy, sneaky, and completely dishonest. I really nailed the role of a Washington Post reporter in that little short walk-on cameo. But this is part of their entire falsehood. The truth is, in Alabama, when Donald Trump heard that some Republicans in the legislature were trying to block access to IVF, he started lobbying individual Republican legislators on the phone, called the governor, called the leaders in the legislature to make sure that access to IVF was maintained. So once again, it is the exact opposite of what Kamala Harris says it is. This is a perfect example, of course, of the kind of coordination that we pretty much expected took place during the ABC debate. As you know, a whistleblower who I find credible has come forward to say that not only were the questions, or at least the subject of the questions, shared, but that Kamala Harris was guaranteed that there be no discussion of her record as a prosecutor, either as district attorney or as Attorney General of the state of California. I think we're going to find out in the next less than 50 days why she wants no focus on her record as a prosecutor, because she was particularly vicious against people of color. She was particularly vicious against people in the African-American community. She would like us to forget all of that, but the facts are what the facts are. I have one obvious question, and that is, in 2016, we know absolutely that Donna Brazile, who is in that revolving door between being Democrat political operative and media talking head — I don't know any Republicans who can do that — was working at CNN, and she gave Hillary Clinton the questions for her upcoming debate with Donald Trump. Donald Trump kicked her butt anyway. Now, guess where Donna Brazile works? That's right, ABC. History repeats itself. All right, Troy, what else you got for us today?
Well, Roger, we have just 2 videos. I want to play these back to back because it just speaks to exactly. I mean, this is going to be the end of the abortion thing, and that is Kamala Harris, being debunked by the governor Ralph Northam, and then we also have a news clip of the time that shows Delegate Kathy Tran. Now, I want to just say this real quickly. I called the office of Delegate Kathy Tran, who put this bill in place, who was calling for children to be able to be aborted up until the moment of birth and even after birth. And they have refused to answer any questions. They refused to talk about the bill at all. I guess, Roger, if I had played the part of a Washington Post reporter, maybe they would have answered. But we will continue to kind of go there. But let's play those 2 videos just to kind of shore up and show exactly what the president was talking about and show that this is a real issue and that the Democrats have been caught in radicalism as far as the issue of abortion is concerned. Let's roll those.
no exception. There was a very contentious committee hearing yesterday when Fairfax County Delegate Kathy Tran made her case for lifting restrictions on third trimester abortions, as well as other restrictions now in place. And she was pressed by a Republican delegate about whether her bill would permit an abortion even as a woman is essentially dilating, ready to give birth. And she answered that it would permit an abortion at that stage of labor. Do you support her measure, and explain her answer?
Yeah, and I wasn't there, Julie, and I certainly can't speak for Delegate Tran, but I would tell you, first thing I would say is this is why decisions such as this should be made by providers, physicians, and the mothers and fathers that are involved. There are, when we talk about third trimester abortions, these are done with the consent of obviously the mother, with the consent of the physicians, more than one physician, by the way. And it's done in cases where there may be severe deformities, there may be a fetus that's non-viable. So in this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. So I think this was really blown out of proportion. But again, we want the government not to be involved in these types of decisions. We want the decision to be made by the mothers and their providers. And this is why, Julie, that legislators, most of whom are men, by the way, shouldn't be telling a woman what she should and shouldn't be doing with her body.
And do you think multiple physicians should have to weigh in, as is currently required? She's trying to lift that requirement.
Well, I think it's always good to get a second opinion, and for at least two providers to be involved in that decision, because these decisions shouldn't be taken lightly. And so, I would certainly support more than one provider.
All right, let's go back to the phones now for the governor. We're going to talk now with Mike, who's calling.
Virginia's late-term abortion bill is gaining international attention.
It would allow terminations at any point during pregnancy, including up until the point of childbirth.
Today, politicians are sounding off even in Europe. We want to know your thoughts. You can vote on 13newsnow.com/vote.
13 News Now reporter Jacqueline Lee joins us in the studio with the latest on this.
Janet, both Governor Ralph Northam and House Speaker Kirk Cox held press conferences today responding to the backlash surrounding Delegate Kathy Tran's bill, which would ease abortion restrictions in Virginia. The controversy first started from this video. Delegate Tran defending her bill that would loosen abortion requirements in the Commonwealth.
Through the third trimester. The third trimester goes all the way up to 40 weeks.
Okay, but to the end of the third trimester.
Yep, I don't think we have a limit in the bill.
Right now, late-term abortions are allowed under Virginia law if 3 physicians certify the pregnancy substantially and irremediably threatens the woman's life and health. Tran's bill would only require 1 physician to certify the abortion and removes the substantially and irremediably requirement. Facing harsh backlash, Governor Northam went on a radio show stating that Tran's comments were blown out of proportion. He added that politicians shouldn't interfere with a woman's right to choose.
The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother.
Governor Northam faced backlash of his own, accused of supporting infanticide by conservative leaders.
Words have meaning. You saw the tape. I think he was very clear in what he said. And I think that was very disturbing.
Conservative leaders across the state are warning that if Democrats flip the House in November, a bill like this could become law. In a press conference today, Governor Northam pushed back.
I regret that those comments have been mischaracterized. The personal insults toward me, I really find disgusting.
Governor Northam added, this is nothing more than a political ploy. Delegate Tran's bill did die in subcommittee. Today, she posted on her Facebook saying all she did nothing to change the way the law stands right now. She said she tried to make sure women can make decisions and access services in a timely manner. Jacqueline Lee, 13 News Now.
Boy, the Democrats really are the party of death. There's no question about it. The bottom line of this, of course, remains the same. Virginia's current law does allow late-term abortion right up until the time of delivery. And there is no question that the governor spoke openly about the baby being born, the baby being made comfortable before a decision is made whether to kill a live baby. That's what he said. And that's what the late Daniel Patrick Moynihan, U.S. Senator from New York, a liberal Democrat, called infanticide. You're absolutely right, Troy. They don't want to talk about the massive influx of illegals at our border. They don't want to talk about the fentanyl epidemic. They don't want to talk about the crime epidemic. They don't want to talk about inflation. They don't want to talk about the cost of gasoline. They don't want to talk about the fact that we are careening towards World War III. They would like this election to be all about abortion. And even then, they're forced to distort the position of Donald Trump, insisting again and again. I saw Tim Walz saying that Donald Trump will sign a federal abortion ban. No, he won't. That's not his position. All right, let's continue.
Well, Roger, yesterday Kamala Harris delivered a speech, and it's kind of amazing, to see her sit up there as the Vice President of the United States. I assume she's got Joe on speed dial, and she's talking about all these problems that we have. We have a problem with housing now. There's not enough homes being built. That was what she was talking about. And we pulled some information of this. We'll roll this clip. Then I have a short graph I want to show and get Roger's thoughts on the Democrats rewriting history as far as housing prices are concerned, and what this new policy from Kamala Harris that she's putting out there, the damage that this could cause our economy. Let's roll that clip. Then I have a chart, and then we'll get Roger's thoughts.
We need to take that on. We need to lower the cost of housing. We don't have enough housing in our country. The supply is too low, and it's too expensive, both for renters and for folks who want to buy a home. So we will build together millions of new homes and give first-time home buyers $25,000 in down payment assistance. Because look, people just want to get their foot in the door. My mother worked hard. She saved up. It wasn't until I was a teenager that she was able to buy our first home. And the American dream is elusive for far too many people increasingly. And that's why it is part of my perspective that let's just do the work of giving first-time home buyers a $25,000 down payment assistance. Let them get their foot in the door.
Well, and Roger, we have a clip here. There's no homes being built. I wonder why that is. Well, let's show the building price material, the price of building materials since Biden came into office. As you can see, under President Trump, they remained steady. As soon as Joe Biden got into office, building materials nearly doubled. And you ask any contractor, Roger, you ask any plumber, you ask people who actually work in this country, what is the main indicator for economic downturn, for economic problems? Building materials is at the very top of that. And as you can see, the price of material, the price of all this stuff is going through the roof under President Joe Biden. We wonder why there's not being more houses built. The materials are more expensive than ever. What do you think about this?
The sad thing is what Kamala Harris is proposing has already been tried. Back during the Clinton administration, when Andrew Cuomo was the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, it was decided that the government would underwrite subprime mortgages for people who wanted to buy a home. Unfortunately, no thought was given to the fact that once they had their down payment and they had their mortgage, as soon as the first mortgage payments, which had a balloon in them, by the way, hit, that those who had the homes would not be able to service the mortgage. This caused not only a complete collapse of the housing market, but it actually caused a national fiscal crisis. It crashed the entire economy. So we have tried this before. It didn't work. But it's very attractive if you're a person who would like to have a home and don't think you'll ever have the down payment for a home. And you don't have the ongoing financial ability to service a mortgage. Again, she's trying to buy votes with the promise of a policy that cannot fiscally sustain itself. the whole Harris campaign is kind of built around this concept of promising to seal the border when she's had 3.5 years to seal the border and hasn't done so. Promising to cut the tax on tips. She actually voted in the Senate to retain the tax on tips. Her entire campaign is one big lie.
Well, and Roger, we have more evidence of that from that same speech yesterday. We saw President Trump take kind of unprecedented action that had never been taken before when he was president of the United States, to one, cap the price of insulin, which we pulled. He did in March of 2020. We have the headline for that. He capped the price of insulin for our seniors in Medicare, which has never been done before. Really tremendous thing that a lot of people were complaining about. By the way, President Biden took that away and then put his own in there and then claimed that he was the first to do it. So there's that talking point blown out of the water. But then we also have a headline from November of 2020 where President Trump finally came through and allowed for Medicare to kind of negotiate on their drug prices, which is something he's been talking about for his entire campaign. And I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure that this negotiating drug prices was one of the very first policies that Trump came up with when he decided to run for president. So I wanted to ask you, Roger, about this clip. We'll run this now. This is Kamala Harris promising to do all those things that I just showed you that President Trump did. And get your thoughts on the idea that she's kind of trying to reinvent the wheel here that's already been done. So let's roll that clip and get Roger's thoughts.
We, because of our work together, have finally given Medicare the power to negotiate lower drug prices with Big Pharma. And understand, if my opponent, Donald Trump, wins, his allies in Congress intend to end Medicare and end Medicare's negotiating power, as they remind us again this week. They are essentially saying, check this out, because you know, you have to ask why, right? So why would you want to end Medicare's negotiating power against Big Pharma? And essentially they're saying that it's not fair to Big Pharma. That's essentially what they're saying. But I'll tell you what's not fair. What's not fair is that our seniors for too long have had to cut pills in half because they cannot afford their full medication. That's not fair. It's not fair that our seniors have had to choose between filling their prescriptions and putting food in their refrigerator or paying their rent. That's not fair. And that's why we will continue to do our work together, including Fight Project 2025, an agenda that would cut Medicare and increase the cost of health care in our country.
Well, there she goes again. By the way, she really does a pretty good job of reading that teleprompter. The problem here, of course, is that Donald Trump has no intention of cutting the Medicare program. And if Project 2025 is Donald Trump's platform, well, then the U.S. Communist Party platform is Kamala Harris's platform. I mean, it would be an analogous situation. Trump insists that Agenda 47 is his platform. Project 2025 is not his platform. Yet she insists the Democrat National Party convention is her platform. I say the U.S. Communist Party agenda platform is her platform. She'll insist that's not true, but then Trump has denounced Project 2025. Yes, people who worked for Trump worked on the platform of a very conservative think tank. There's a few good things in there, by the way, but there's many things in there that Donald Trump doesn't agree to or agree with. It's part and parcel of the same ongoing litany of lies put forward by Kamala Harris and her campaign.
Well, Roger, you know, we are seeing this rhetoric kind of play out, I think, every time we see an assassination attempt occur. I mean, they are out there. We've played the video of Dan Goldman saying that Trump needs to be eliminated. We've played videos of them saying he's Hitler. We've played videos of them saying that he will destroy America. Gavin Newsom ran an advertisement on national television where he said that Republicans, I mean, it was like an acted skit type commercial where he said that Republicans would send police officers to chase down women that got abortions in other states. I mean, this is like beyond. I mean, what I think it was Chris Matthews you talked about, Roger, that said that Trump would have reporters lined up and shot against the wall. I mean, what kind of rhetoric is that? And like I said, we see this play out in all these assassination attempts. And before we get out of here, I have a question about something that you tweeted out I think is very important, and that is the individual that is leading this investigation for Ron DeSantis into the Trump assassination attempt. That is the most recent Trump assassination attempt. So we have a picture of the individual. I want to put this up. David Kerner has been tagged to lead this investigation. And you raised some questions, say this guy actually might not be the biggest fan of President Trump. He apparently has a history of being anti-Trump. What can you tell us about this?
Look, I want to correct a misimpression. David Kerner was the liberal Democrat mayor of Palm Beach. He was a vax Nazi. He set up the COVID-19 compliance task force, which was basically a jackbooted group that went around terrorizing businesses and individuals in Palm Beach County. They set up an 800 snitch line, which was approved by Governor DeSantis, who criticized Governor Walz for letting that be done in Minnesota. But here's the most disturbing thing. Before the 2022 election, Mr. Kerner endorsed Republican Ron DeSantis, and then after the election, I believe in return for his endorsement, he was rewarded with an appointment as the executive director of the Florida Highway Patrol and the Department of Homeland Security. Now, he's not leading the investigation that the governor has ordered into the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, but he is participating. I would prefer if he was not involved at all because of his anti-Trump posts on X and his status as a Trump hater. Overall, by the way, I praise Governor DeSantis for having an independent investigation. As Steve Friend, the former FBI agent, told us yesterday, having concurrent federal and state investigations where most of the actual crimes, such as attempted murder, are under state law rather than federal law. All right, I'm afraid we're out of time for today. I want to thank you for joining us here on the Stone Zone. Do us a favor, folks. Go by mypillow.com, and use promo code STONE when you do, because, well, we got to keep the lights on, and we need your help there. Mike Lindell needs your help. We need your help. You can make a difference. There's many great products there. Please check it out at mypillow.com, and when you do, use promo code STONE. All right, that's it for us today. I'm Roger Stone. On behalf of myself and my co-host, Troy Smith, we wish you God bless you and Godspeed until tomorrow.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone. Where's Roger Stone?